E60, The Many Lives of Lane Kiffin, will air at 6 o'clock Central tomorrow on ESPN. And the brains and the talent and everything behind it, Ryan McGee joins us right now to talk about it. Ryan, really appreciate your time. And I want to start with one of my favorite questions to ask people. Okay. What did you learn about Lane Kiffin making this that you did not know about him previously?
That he's evolved. I mean, he's grown up. He's 50 years old now, and he has he says it in the documentary, he's got this second chance to be an in-person father. And he and I are in the same age group. We were around each other as kids when his dad was the coach at North Carolina State back in the early 80s. And we're allowed to evolve. And I think that because he's in Oxford and because everyone thinks they already know who he is based on, whether they live in Knoxville or Southern California or Oakland or wherever, I think he's changed and people don't realize it. And I hope that maybe I know he certainly hopes that maybe after they watch this documentary on Wednesday night, that maybe they can see a little of that. We're not dumb, right? The people in Knoxville aren't suddenly going to, oh, he's the best. But I think they'll at least maybe understand a little bit about where he's coming from and where he is now versus, the guy that we thought we knew 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, because he is one of those coaches, and there's been more than one that, I mean, he's got a reputation and a personality that he earned it for varying reasons, but people still think he's that guy. And so in your conversation behind the scenes talking to people, how much of the old Lane Kiffin is still there?
Well, I mean, just this week, right? I mean, there's just enough. Like, he's not on Twitter all the time, but when he is, take the over. That's old Lane Kiffin right there. There's just enough of that left in him, to react. What was your mom's name? Like you said at media days, there's enough of that left in him, but it's also now it's about picking your spots. And the biggest thing is, and he says this point blank multiple times, and said it to me in the interview, which is he really didn't care what people thought. 28-year-old Lane Kiffin and 30-year-old Lane Kiffin and even 40-year-old Lane Kiffin, 50-year-old Lane Kiffin cares. And it's not so much about him as it is, when you get to 50, I can tell you, you start thinking about, your legacy. And your legacy, wins and losses and all that as a football coach are one thing, but it's also about how your kids are going to react and how your grandkids are going to act and how they're going to be told what people thought about you. And so now he's very conscious of those things, whereas before I believe him when he said he didn't care, and I also believe him when he says now that he does.
Yeah, watched it already, and you guys put the teaser clip out there of him talking about the Auburn courtship and his daughter's role in that. But what's so interesting, you said it earlier, that the second chance essentially at being a dad is a fascinating thing that Florida's going to come open, it seems like, here soon, and people are going to tie him to Florida. I don't know if enough people nationally realize that it's different with him because he just got them back and they just got settled, and it's not your typical coach who's just going to bounce his family all around the country situation. They just essentially returned to his life, at least physically. This is a relatively new thing for him.
Yeah, I mean, Landry, who's in the documentary, of course, made headlines, just this week, today, about the LSU, her boyfriend at LSU. But Landry was maybe my favorite interview of the whole thing. And she's the same age as my daughter. And whatever Landry wants to do in this world, she's going to do it. She's pretty outstanding. But yeah, she moved to Oxford for her senior year of high school, moved from Los Angeles, and, left her mom and her sister and her brother back in LA because she wanted to be with her dad. She wanted to go to Ole Miss. And then, we start hearing about his name, of course, after that Arkansas game, about being attached to the Auburn job. And we tell the story. I've already, tweeted that clip out, and it's in the piece where it was ruthless, man. She got a song that knew would make him cry, and she did a slideshow presentation in his office with her friends. And I've told a lot of Ole Miss fans, you need to shake Landry's hand and thank her, because it's a big reason why he's still in Oxford. And now his son Knox has started high school, has moved from Los Angeles. I mean, Layla, his ex-wife, has a place in Oxford. So you're right. The whole family's there. His brother's there on the staff, and his parents both, were living there in Oxford before they passed away over the last year. And so I think that those things factor more than people realize. And the quote that he says all the time, he says it to you guys on the beat, he said it to me, which is, I needed Oxford more than Oxford needed me. And one of my favorite sections in the documentary is where he admits he thought Oxford was going to be too slow for him. And I think that his approach was what we all thought it was going to be, which was, this is a bridge job to another job. Mm-hmm. I don't know that he feels that way anymore. And so you're right. I think people underestimate, that he's going to run for the Florida job or run for whatever job that comes open. And I think I believe him when he says he's very happy where he is, because for the first time in his adult life, he's got his family around him and they're having a really good time.
Yeah. Another part where he talks about a statue. He thought he wanted to go somewhere and get a statue built. Now it's about family. But, I mean, if he continues on the trajectory that he's at his current job, there will be a statue that will come if he keeps this up anyway.
Yeah, no. And I told him that. I said, hey, man, I appreciate what you're saying, but, if you keep winning double-digit games, because, listen, all due respect to Johnny Vaught and to Archie Manning, but this stretch that Ole Miss is in right now, numbers-wise, is the most successful stretch in the history of Ole Miss football. It needs a ring, right? You go to Vaught Hemingway, and those years of the championships were a long time ago. If he gets a ring at some point, it's the only thing that's missing. Conference title, national title, whatever. It's the only thing that's missing from officially declaring this the most successful stretch in the history of Ole Miss football, particularly in the era that he's doing it. And so, I'm with you. I think if people don't appreciate it now, don't get so worried about what may or may not happen in the next few years. Enjoy it now, because right now is about as good as it's ever going to get.
So you've covered sports, not just college football, at all levels. Do you think that what he's doing or what he's done so far at Ole Miss is sustainable? Because that's the question, right? Is this sustainable at this place? What would your answer be to that?
I would say that if your size sample is what's happened over the last 6 years, yes. And I can tell you firsthand. Listen, I was in Oregon last week leading up to week 4, and I was in Eugene, which are the haves, and I was in Corvallis, which are the have-nots. And the have-nots are being left behind. And Ole Miss right now is a have. And so it's sustainable because they're doing it right now. And whatever it is you're doing right now, you need to keep doing it. And Lane is smart enough to know it takes the financial support in addition to whatever he's doing in recruiting. And it's also a place and a man that guys want to play for. I think we lose sight right now of the fact that the player-coach relationship still matters. I had this conversation with Brent Venables just a few days ago when I was in Oklahoma. That relationship still matters. We forget that sometimes because we get obsessed with NIL and rev share and, court settlements and all those things. But, talk to Corral, talk to Jackson, talk to the guys that are there now. They talk about Lane Kiffin like an older brother, if not a father figure. And that's not totally common right now. And so whatever's going on now, put it in the bottle and keep going back to it. And that includes support, from the university. And right now they got it rolling. I think it's totally sustainable, but it only takes 2 years maybe to lose that momentum. So you just need to keep that up.
Just a couple minutes left, and we're really thankful for your time. We do have a statewide audience here, 12 stations. All of our 82 counties are covered right now. So as you can imagine, not just Ole Miss fans listening, an elevator pitch to the state fan out there or the LSU fan, because we have some, especially in South Mississippi, that listen. Why should they watch the documentary, the E60, coming out tomorrow?
Well, it kind of goes back to, remember that movie Private Parts about Howard Stern, and they were looking at the ratings, and the guy goes, people who say they love Howard Stern listen to him 15 minutes a day. People who say they hate Howard Stern listen for 2.5 hours or whatever it is. And you're talking to a Tennessee alum who's married to a born and raised Knoxville girl who ain't super happy with me for me working on this piece, right? I mean, and all my in-laws and roommates and all those things, but they're all going to watch. And I think that even if it's not, if you either love Kiffin or you hate him, and there's people in Oakland that are going to watch, and people in Knoxville are going to watch, people in Fresno that are going to watch, people that he's made mad along the way. but I think you're going to watch it anyway because I'm not naive. I'm the son of a referee, right? I know I'm not going to convince you to love referees, but I might convince you that their intent is there and the hard work is there. And I think with Lane Kiffin in his current state, you can't question his intent or his approach. And he's not the guy he was 5 years ago, let alone 15, 25 years ago. And even if you don't like him, you're probably going to want to watch because you at least understand who he is.
Well, forgive me for gassing you up here, but just another outstanding piece of work and a long line of great stuff that you have done over the years. Really thankful for your time. Looking forward to watching that tomorrow. And hopefully again down the line we can catch